Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom's November release is now available and it is absolutely adorable. Here's a quick look at the release. You can always save by purchasing the full release bundle, and it will include the freebie stencil set. If you are interested, I do have links in the description box below. The first item is Candy Drip Stencil. This is currently not available for individual purchase. This is the freebie you'll receive if you purchase at least $50 worth of products, and one item must be from the new release. This is for a limited time or while supplies last. The next stencil set is called Christmas Sugar Cookie, and there are 3 stencil layers. I love this adorable design, and I will be using it on a couple cards later on in the video. The first stamp set is Gingerbread Faces, and I'm showing these out of order. Let me grab the die set, and this will make more sense. There's a new friend for the gnomes. This is Gingerbread. And you can use the Gingerbread Faces stamps instead of the dies for your gingerbread faces. I love having both options. The next die set is Gingerbread Mug Die. Isn't this absolutely adorable? You can fill your mug with cocoa topped with whipped cream. You could do tea or coffee. You can add the icing, the face, and the gingerbread face stamps do fit on the gingerbread mug dies. The set even includes some sprinkles and a little star to add in your whipped cream. The next die set is Gingerbread House Die. You may notice a little bit of a theme, all the fun gingerbread items. This is a really cute die set, and the house all assembled fits beautifully on an A2 size card. It includes all the main pieces for the house, including a chimney. There's the door, a wreath, and we have some fun candies to add to the house. If you want more candy options, there's a new Embellishment Cluster set. This one's called Gingerbread. The Embellishment Cluster sets have been super popular at Jaded Blossom, so I love that they're continuing on with different shapes. This set includes wrapped candies, gumdrops, gingerbreads, and lollipops. There is a new sentiment die set, and there are also coordinating outline dies. This one's called Gingerbread Brewed. As always, Jaded Blossom has included so many fun sentiments, and they always have great fonts for their sentiments. So that's everything that's included in the November 2024 release. There are a few other products that were recently released. These are not part of the release bundle. Jaded Blossom's MDF pieces have been super popular, so they've introduced 2 new shapes. There's Gingerbread and also Gingerbread House. The house is available with the stand, and Gingerbread is available in either the stand or the hang tag ring. I cut out just the background piece so you can see how easy it is to assemble. So here's the gingerbread house. You would simply adhere it on the MDF piece, then insert it on the stand, and now you have an adorable holiday decoration. Jaded Blossom also released their MDF Standing Base Die set. I don't have it yet. I will show it in the next video. But you can use it to add some pattern paper or solid cardstock on the top of that base piece. And here's a look at the gingerbread. For the MDF piece, they didn't include the arms. That way you have the option of doing the gingerbread girl, the gingerbread man. You could have the hands out, or you could have the gingerbread holding an object. For my cards today, the pattern paper I'll be using is from Doodlebug Design. This is their Gingerbread Kisses collection that was released last year. I've used some of this paper pad already, so I have all of this scrap stored in a 6x6 Scrapmaster. If you're interested in those, I do have a link in the description box. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I will be using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from OWH. It's sketch number 42. For the background of my card, have a red tone-on-tone polka dot paper. For the two narrow strips, I selected this adorable paper with lots of different cookie images. I'll layer those pieces on some white shimmer cardstock, then adhere them on the red and white polka dot paper. Now I'll layer this piece on more of the white shimmer cardstock. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. I'm also using an assortment of Doodlebug Design petite prints, and that's what I use for the Scallop Square die cut. At the bottom of the card, I'm adding a strip of the red tone-on-tone polka dot paper. I'll put glue on the back of the Scallop Square and adhere it down, and I'm putting it more like a diamond shape. Then I'll put adhesive on the back of the red polka dot paper and adhere it at the bottom. And I am covering up the bottom point of the Scallop Square. Now I'll set that aside and start assembling one of the gingerbreads. And I'm making a gingerbread girl. I have all of the die cut pieces stored in one of Scrapbook.com's stack and sort trays. This is the smaller size. And I'm doing all of the gluing on a cut down version of Scrapbook.com's Project Grip Mat. The gingerbread face stamp set is absolutely adorable, so I decided I would use one of them for this little gingerbread girl. I'll grab my mini MISTI, and in my mini MISTI I have a waffle flower grip mat. The size I'm using fits perfectly in the mini MISTI. It has a tacky surface and will hold the die cut piece in place. That way I can ink up the stamp multiple times to get a nice solid impression. And I don't have to try to put a magnet on that small die cut piece since the grip mat will hold it in place. Now I'll put glue on the back of the head and adhere it on the outline piece of the gingerbread. I use pattern paper for the gingerbread girl's dress. For the icing pieces, I cut these out from some glossy cardstock by Scrapbook.com. And I also use the glossy cardstock for her cute little pink bow. I like that the background piece has the little stitch detail. That way you know where to add each of the icing squiggle pieces. I'm using a pair of reverse tweezers to hold some of the tiny pieces, but overall this is a very easy image to assemble. It doesn't have a bunch of tiny die cut pieces, especially if you choose to use the stamp face instead of the die cut face pieces. I will add a couple of buttons to the front of her dress. I used more of the glossy cardstock, went with the green color to match the scallop green square. I first added a small drop of Barely Art glue, and I'll pick them up using the wax tip end of Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. One of the buttons wouldn't pick up. I may have a little bit of glue on the silicone mat, so I just grabbed my tweezers to pick up that last button. If you watched my videos before, you know I'm not one that colors, but I did decide to add just that little bit of color inside her nose and also her tongue. And I'm using some Copic markers. I'll also use a white gel pen to add the little highlights inside her eyes. I've already stamped and cut out the sentiment, wishing you a season filled with sweetness. I will pop it up using foam dimension. I have Scrapbook.com's 1/4 inch foam in the 1mm thickness. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment in the center of the red and white polka dot piece. I'll also pop up the gingerbread girl. This time I'm using the small foam squares from Scrapbook.com in the 1mm thickness. Make sure to get good coverage on the back. Remove the release paper and add my little gingerbread girl above the sentiment inside the scallop square. For a little extra detail, I'm adding some gumdrops. I used the new Gingerbread Embellishment Cluster die set and selected 3 petite print pattern papers from Doodlebug. I did pop them up using more foam dimension. I'll put 3 gumdrops on the right side and 3 on the left side of the gingerbread girl. For embellishments, I'm using Doodlebug Designs Shape Sprinkles. This is the Warm Wishes set. I'll put 3 hearts in the upper right-hand corner. And I know some people will be shocked, I used 3 different colors. I'm also adding 2 white hearts, one on the right and one on the left side of the sentiment. For final finishing touch, I'll add a little bit of glitter at the top of each of the gumdrops so it looks like sugar. I'm using Nuvo glitter drops. This is the silver crystal color. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This gingerbread girl is absolutely adorable. Now moving on to card design number 2. The card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 552. Selected the plaid paper for the background. For the strip on the left side, I have the tone-on-tone pink heart paper, and I'll be layering everything on some red cardstock. For a little extra detail and shine, I'll add some Love from Lizi peel-offs on the background, about 1.5 inches up. I'm using the silver holographic color in the pinstripe style. Use the widest and medium width. I'll wrap the ends around the back. And for that medium piece, I use a couple of small scrap pieces since I will be covering up that area. I'll layer the background on red cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. Now I'll add the pink heart strip on the left side of the card. For the other pattern paper, I'm using the tone-on-tone design that has a bunch of cookies, and I layered that piece on the same red cardstock. Before adhering it down, I will put a scrap cardstock piece on the right side where it goes off of the heart paper. Instead of the oval that's indicated on the card sketch, I'm adding a large circle die cut, and I did use some white shimmer cardstock for the circle. Before adhering it down, I'll put a scrap piece just on the right side where it goes off of the other pattern paper layers. Now I'll set aside the card and start working on the image. This card will feature the new gingerbread mug. For the very background piece, I cut this out of white cardstock, and all of it will be covered up. So this is always a great time to use up some scrap cardstock. I'll be adding the die cut pieces for the face, but I did show that you can use the gingerbread face stamp set. I've already stamped and cut out the sentiment, sending you a cup of holiday cheer. And using the outline die, I cut out another piece from white cardstock, glued the 2 together, and that gives the sentiment a little more stability since I stamped the sentiment on some Doodlebug Design pattern paper. For the whipped cream, I thought it would be fun to have some pink color. I used some pink pearlescent cardstock. I cut out the straw from pattern paper and also some white cardstock. The white cardstock piece was simply to add that extra layer. That way the pattern paper straw doesn't dip down at the top, since the pink pearlescent cardstock does have quite a bit of thickness to it. The pattern paper I used for the straw is from the Petite Prince. There are 3 pieces to add the little diagonal stripes. One of the yellow pieces is super tiny. You could probably leave off that piece and no one would know the difference. I decided to add it so I could show it in the video, and I did pick it up using the wax tip end of the Craft Pro Pick tool. For the icing pieces, I cut these out of more glossy cardstock from scrapbook.com. Decided to go with the light green color. This color is included in their pastel glossy cardstock paper pad. If you haven't tried their new glossy cardstock, I highly recommend it. It has beautiful shine and a fun variety of colors. There's the pastel and also a rainbow collection. The main mug piece has those stitch lines so you know where to add all the different pieces. The eyes, the cheeks, the mouth, the buttons, and the icing. There is a separate handle piece so you could have a different color. I'm not sure why I went with the same brown. Looking at it now while I'm recording voiceover, I think I would have preferred it in red, matching the buttons of the gingerbread. I may go back later and change it since I can simply cut out that handle individually. I use white cardstock for the eyes, pattern paper for the little cheeks, and black cardstock for the mouth. You can see with the gingerbread mug, since I am doing the die cut face, it does include 5 more pieces. I believe there's also a die to add the nose, but I thought it looked cute without the nose. For the center of the eye, I did use a Love from Lizi peel off. This is from their bubble design. It's the medium size circle. You could also just use a black pen and add that tiny circle. I've gone ahead and put foam dimension on the back of the mug, and I'll put a scrap piece of cardstock at the bottom of the sentiment, since the top area will be sitting on the bottom of the circle die cut. I'll put some foam dimension just on the very right side where the sentiment goes off of the pattern paper. Then I'll put barely art glue on the back and adhere the sentiment underneath the mug. For embellishments, I cut out 5 of the candy pieces. I used some holographic mirror cardstock from scrapbook.com. Put foam dimension on the back. I'll put 3 of the candies in the upper left-hand corner and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now moving on to card design number 3. This is one of my favorite cards that I made using the new release, but I'm warning you now, there are at least 1 million die cut pieces. For the background of my card, using more petite print pattern paper from Doodlebug Design, this is some of the 12x12 paper. For the other petite prints, I was using the 6x6 paper. At the bottom of the card, I added a little snowy hill, and I cut that out using a border die from Jaded Blossom. Layered the pattern paper on a Scallop Rectangle die cut from Jaded Blossom. At the top of this panel, I'm putting some Love from Lizi peel-offs. This is the clear color with silver overlay, so it has lots of beautiful shine, using the widest and also the medium width. Now we'll set aside the card and start working on the gingerbread house. I want to add a little extra ink along the edge of all of the gingerbread pieces. And the ink color I'm using is very fitting for this release. It's called Gingerbread by Catherine Pooler. I'll do all of the inking on the cut down version of scrapbook.com's Project Grip Mat. And the blending brush I'm using is from scrapbook.com. It's the small size. So I have the main portion of the house done. Now I'll work on the door. Then the final pieces are just the front areas of the tiny chimney. I'll quickly clean off the silicone mat. Now I'll start gluing all of the pieces together. And I warned you, at least 1 million die cut pieces. So I did speed up this portion just a little bit more than the rest of the video. It's not really 1 million, but it did feel like quite a few pieces. For the very background piece, I used the same brown cardstock, but all of that will be covered up. Now I'll add the inked gingerbread pieces on top. And now the fun part, decorating the gingerbread house. The solid cardstock colors I'm using for the house are from scrapbook.com's Sprinkle Smooth Cardstock Paper Pad. I love the colors in this paper pad, and I thought they would be perfect for a gingerbread house. It's not traditional Christmas colors, but sometimes it's fun to use those non-traditional colors. Use light pink cardstock for the door and also the window frames. Put some bright yellow cardstock behind the window so it looks like it's being lit up from the inside. For the scallop trim pieces, using the same green color that I use for the scallop rectangle piece on the background of the card. Selected a brighter pink for the little squiggly icing pieces. I used dark brown cardstock for the doorknob and also the windowsills. The icing squiggle is available in 3 sizes, putting the longest piece right above the bottom area of the roof, putting the medium piece toward the top of the roof, and the smaller piece I'm putting one on the right side and one on the left side of the door frame. I love that this set includes a teeny tiny wreath. Use a darker green cardstock for the wreath, the bright pink cardstock for the bow. I'll be adding 4 lollipops in front of the house. I use white cardstock for the background and also the stem of the lollipop. The round piece, I use white shimmer cardstock, and for the little spiral, I have blue and also dark green. I think the gingerbread house would be a really fun holiday project. You could die cut out a bunch of the pieces in a variety of different colors, then invite your friends and family and they can assemble and customize their own gingerbread house. I have 2 more of the colored swirls to attach on the lollipops. Then I'll flip them over. I'll put foam dimension on the back just behind the top portion of the lollipops. And I'll put glue on the back of the sticks. I'll remove the release paper and add the lollipops in front of the house, putting the blue closest to the door and the dark green on the outside. The final candies I'm adding on the house are the teeny tiny gumdrops. I'll add blue, light pink, darker pink, and green, and I'm putting them at the very top of the house. So there is the gingerbread house all assembled. I've already gone ahead and put foam on the back. I've also stamped and cut out the sentiment, "From our gingerbread house to yours, Merry Christmas." And I put foam dimension behind the sentiment as well. I'll remove the release paper, add the house at the bottom right on the snowy hill, and I'll put the sentiment at the very top. And if you're wondering where the rest of the million die cut pieces are, well, here are a bunch of gumdrops I'll be adding at the very bottom. Selected 3 colors, the light pink, dark pink, and blue. I didn't want to do the green since it would blend in with that scallop background. I cut out 2 different sizes using the new Gingerbread Embellishment Cluster die set. And one by one from the left to the right, I'll glue down all those different gumdrops. And I'm trying to do them random versus a pattern. Since I did use the Embellishment Cluster dies, I ended up with some extra gumdrops. That's the nice thing about the Embellishment Cluster dies. It cuts out 6 of the same size piece at once since it's welded together. It'll save you so much time. I'll add 2 blue iridescent hearts next to the sentiment, and the heart dies are from the original Embellishment Cluster die set. It's still one of my favorite and most used die sets from Jaded Blossom. You can make your own paper embellishments, customize them using pattern paper, cardstock, specialty cardstock. To finish off the card, I'll add the sugar topping on all of the gumdrops. So there is my finished card. I love the bright colors and the gingerbread house is so cute. Now moving on to card design number 4. And just to save time on this video, I've already gone ahead and stenciled the background. I used the new Christmas Sugar Cookie Stencil set. For the outline of the cookie, the ink color is Gingerbread from Catherine Pooler. The dark green icing, I used Distress Oxide Lucky Clover. And for the detail icing, I used Scrapbook.com's Cloud Whip. The Cloud Whip is white, but it did take on some of the color from the ink. So that icing is now light green and the top of the stocking is an off-white. I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Mojo Monday. It's sketch number 143. I'll layer the stencil piece and pattern paper on some craft cardstock. And that polka dot pattern paper is more petite print from Doodlebug. For the large banner, I cut this out of some cream colored cardstock. And the die I used is Jaded Blossom's Flag Dies. I did cut out 2, glued them together just for some extra stability. I'll put glue on the back and adhere the large banner in place. And I did put an acrylic block on top for some added weight, since I am adhering it on the Cloud Whip, which does add a little bit of texture. For sentiment, I've already stamped out, "You are the icing to my gingerbread." Stamped it on a stitch circle die cut. I did use white shimmer cardstock for the white circle. I'll layer it on some gold mirror cardstock. Before adhering the circle down, I'll put foam dimension on the bottom portion and a scrap cardstock piece at the top area where it sits on that banner piece. For the 3 narrow strips on the left side of the card, selected some dark green cardstock from my stash. The color matches almost perfectly with the Lucky Clover ink. Before adhering it down, I will put those scrap cardstock pieces above and below where it goes over the banner. For a little extra detail, I'm putting 3 of the gingerbread images underneath the sentiment, and these are from the Gingerbread Embellishment Cluster die set. I use the medium size in the center and the 2 smallest on the right and left side. For final finishing touch, I'm adding 3 of the shape sprinkles, selected the brown hearts, and I'll put all 3 of them on the green strips on the left side of the card. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card has red icing for the cookies, and the decorative icing I use Gina K Designs Glitz Glitter Gel, the white color. So it has this lovely glittery finish, but it doesn't make a mess. The new Christmas sugar cookie stencil is so cute. It's already one of my favorites from Jaded Blossom. Now moving on to my final card design, number 5. Using more of Doodlebug Designs pattern paper, selected this brown polka dot paper for the background. Looks like a bunch of colorful sprinkles. I'll layer it on red cardstock. I'm adding a 2-inch strip of this plaid paper on the left side of the card. Before adhering it down, I'll put a Love from Lizi peel off just on the very inside of each of the edges. This is the white color with silver overlay, so it adds that beautiful shine. I'll wrap the ends around the back, adhere this strip on the left side of the card, about 1/2 inch out from the left side. I will be covering up that gap area where I didn't add any peel-offs. At the bottom of the card, I'm adding 2 stitched border die cuts, and these are from Jaded Blossom's Border Die Set number 1. Used a light teal cardstock for the narrow strip, the same red cardstock for the wider strip. I did put double-sided adhesive tape on the back, adhered those in place, and I left them longer than the card. After adhering them down, I simply flipped it over and trimmed off the extra. I'll be adding the image on a Scallop Oval die cut. I cut out 2, one from pattern paper and one from white cardstock. I glued the 2 together just for some extra stability. So I've already assembled most of my gingerbread man. And don't be alarmed, but he's about to get a bite out of his leg. I used Jaded Blossom's Scallop Oval die set to make it look like a bite. This gingerbread man did not run as fast as he could. I used one of the gingerbread face stamps, and I love this expression. It fits perfectly for a gingerbread cookie that has a leg missing. For a sentiment, I'm adding Gingerbread Calories Don't Count. And this sentiment is part of the Gingerbread Calories stamp set. I cut out the sentiment using Jaded Blossom's Mini Tag Dies set number 3. The gingerbread man will be holding a Christmas cookie, and this tree cookie is part of the Gnome Dies Baking Add-on set. For the icing of the tree, I use more of the glossy cardstock from scrapbook.com. I did pop up the tree using foam dimension, and I'm adding the individual hands so the gingerbread man can hold the cookie. I put glue on the ends of the hands to attach to the front of the cookie, but since I am trying to attach them on glossy cardstock, they didn't want to adhere at first. On the back end of the hands, I'm putting some slightly thicker foam dimension. Now I'll add foam dimension on the back of the rest of the gingerbread man, remove the release paper, and add him in the center of the Scallop Oval die cut. For a little extra detail around the sentiment, I'm adding 2 of the small gingerbread images, and these are from the Gingerbread Embellishment Cluster die set. Using a small scrap piece of red cardstock, I'll cut a banner. First cut the fishtail on the bottom, cut the right side in slightly at an angle, flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. And this is my whimsical banner. I'll adhere it in the upper right hand corner. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding more Love from Lizi peel-offs. This is the mini twinkle style in Silver Mirror. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now here's another look at the 10 cards I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new November 2024 release. It's all about gingerbread. This release is absolutely adorable. I love all the stamps, dies, and stencil sets. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Jaded Blossom never disappoints with their amazing releases, and I love that their stamps, dies, and stencils are all made here in the US. If you still need to make some more Christmas cards or holiday projects, this release will be perfect. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.